Welcome, everybody, to the Business Lunatics show. We are back for episode 8, and we have a number of changes that are taking place. First of all, Sean is no longer going to be able to be on the show. Maybe he'll join us in the future. But we have Freddie D with us moving forward. And Freddie's gonna help to navigate the entire show's back end operations with the recordings and the snippets and so on and so forth. So welcome, Freddie D. Glad you're able to join us on this show.
I'm excited to be a member of the Business Lunatics show. So, yes.
The other change you guys are going to notice on our show is that Steve is not able to join us today. He had a family matter that last minute came up. And as you can imagine, we get this email from him and he's talking about the fact that he can't be with us today. Of course, we wished him well, but it raised the question about how do you navigate change? Number one, how can you be nimble in the last minute? And how do you turn around and make decisions as the issues come up? And so not only did we have Sean end up not being able to continue the show after 7 episodes, but here last minute, Steve isn't able to join us. And so this is what we're dealing with today is navigating the changes, trying to make decisions on the fly in a dynamic and very fluid environment. So with that said, Rochelle, what do you think?
Gosh, I think that's the way of the world right now. There's that great expression, we make plans and God laughs. And I think, recently it's we make plans and God's hysterical laughing. So it's not even just your average day-to-day chuckle. It's like he's howling somewhere. And I think that that's what a lot of, especially COVID has taught, at least taught me, is that plan B is no longer what I would consider it's nice to have. Now plan B is a must have, and you've got to go plan B, C, etc. So for me, it comes down to number one, do I have a plan? And pretty often I do. And the other thing is, who's on my team? Who can I rely on when something doesn't work in the way it needs to? And that's important because I think a lot of us wear so many hats and we think that we're indispensable. Oh my God, if I don't show up, then what? And we've got to realize that not only are we, but we need to be so that things can
Mhm.
carry on when I per se cannot be the one that is in control. And I think that's very hard for all entrepreneurs. The word control and entrepreneur in general goes hand in hand, and we don't feel that we have that sense of control. I think our identity gets really shook up. So for me, just
Well,
offhand, I think that
yeah.
we've got, based on circumstances recently, when it comes to navigating change, I'm pretty good at it. And again, for me, it's who's on my team, who can I rely on, what's my backup, and how do I breathe and let go of control? Because that allows me to kind of ask for help and get the help that I need, which allows things to go relatively smooth. So that's my take on it. How about
I
somebody
mean,
else
I
chiming
mean,
in?
yeah, you bring up an interesting point. Is kind of goes something that I was exposed to with my youngest son, who's an Eagle Scout. And, as you know, the Boy Scouts have a general motto about be prepared, right? Well, what does be prepared mean at the end of the day? And in the business world, I think be prepared is about having a plan. Like, you're going to be doing X, Y, Z. You got everything in your calendar, you got everything mapped out. And the question is, well, do you ever think, as you're looking at your schedule or looking at what's going on in your business, do you ever think about, well, what if, right? Do you have that what if plan that's going to help you work through um, the possibility of something? And I'm not suggesting that somebody's got to, constantly think of doom and gloom, right? That's probably not a good idea. But the concept of being prepared, especially in the world of business, I think needs to include the idea that you need to have what if plan. And even if it's a B or C, like you were mentioning, Rochelle, I think that needs to, we need to build on that. I mean, what do you think, Freddie?
Well, I think you guys are both correct. And I'm going to put it into a sports analogy. I use those a lot
Mm,
because sports and business really kind of align if you stop and think about it. Number one is you got to be agile. So that's the
mhm.
first thing. You got to be able to agile because if you think about it, in let's just use American football because in Europe they call it football, and we call it soccer.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I'm just going to make for sure we have a clarification there. But in American football, you're playing football, you've got a play that's going into play, and all of a sudden that they may not play may not go through all the way as they anticipated. The defense may come across with an adjustment. So sometimes you'll see them make a call on the line because they have a backup plan. And so they do an audible. And sometimes based upon what is happening in the game, they'll completely change the game plan because they have a backup plan and then they have a backup plan to that backup. And
Mhm.
so I think in business can learn a lot from sports is the fact that you need to have, plans in place and then address the what ifs so that you're prepared when a what if takes place. It's no big deal, just like in a football game or a soccer game or baseball game or hockey game or basketball game. They've got backup plans and they throw in a new play and off they go and the game keeps going forward and the game keeps moving.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of in the world of soccer, right? The game is going on, and one of your players turns around and gets a red card. What do you
Mm-hmm.
do with 10 players? But the coach has a plan for what
Right.
happens if I have 10 players. And if any of us follow soccer games, and especially going back so many years ago, I can remember, I can't remember which game it was, but I think two or three people end up getting red carded, and then you all of a sudden you're down to eight
It's the same
players.
thing in
And
hockey.
now,
They get put on the bench
yeah, they can put
in
on the
hockey.
bench,
Same
right?
thing. You're down to
Exactly.
playing. Two guys are benched, and you got to still play the
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
I have a
So
I
question,
mean,
guys.
yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
What would be the domino that I think that you need to secure, that the domino that makes it much easier to navigate the change? So I'm thinking for myself, do we have to secure the talent? Do we have to secure the cash flow? What's the thing that if that's a little more stable, the rest can be a little smoother? So for me, I mean, I always say the cash flow, because very often if you can throw money at something, the chances of it being less stressful is in your favor. So if somebody quits, and you have the money for, let's say, the high salary, you have the money for the replacement, it's not as devastating than if you didn't. So I always think
Yeah.
that number one is, I mean, finances need to be as solid as possible. And even that today is very up and down. And some people think, you know what, money isn't quite as important. I can get the loan out, but the talent is important. If I don't have the right team member, then all else, that could be another person can say, you know what, it could be ideas, I'm stale. So if I don't have a right idea, maybe that's the thing that can be the solid domino. So I'm curious, from the both of your perspectives, what do you both feel would be the thing that can stabilize something as quick as possible?
having a
I think,
having a
yeah,
game
but
plan, having an SOP. So if somebody falls out of the equation, someone else can follow the playbook of what needs to be done so you don't miss a step. Most businesses fail at documenting their process. They don't set up standard operating procedures. So if somebody gets hit by the bus, or someone gets sick, or someone requits, a lot of times businesses are floundering because that person was the only one that knew how to do that job.
So what
mhm.
So
I'm
if
hearing
you
is
got
you're
it, but if you
talking
got it,
about.
hang on, if you got it documented, you can put anybody else in there and they may be fumbling through it, but they can get it done so you don't lose momentum.
Yeah, and Rochelle, I'm gonna agree with what you just said though, is if you got the finances in place so you can make decisions when something happens. And simple example, let's use what Freddie was just talking about, where somebody calls in sick. They were key to a presentation, to a meeting, to something that was going on that day. And now what do you do? And I'm not suggesting this is the perfect answer, but if you got the cash, then go find a freelancer on the quick to do whatever XYZ is necessary, right? I mean, if that's the scenario that warrants it. Like, for example, a lot of businesses miss out on the idea of having virtual assistants ready, or to be able to have freelancers ready to do something. Build the relationship with a freelancer, right? Build the relationship with the virtual assistant company so that if something pops, you have that could be a backup plan. I'm not saying it's the backup plan, but these are the types of things we're going to talk about, right? I mean, these are the types of things that are going to help to facilitate whether you can be nimble enough to move. All right, what is that going to look like? I think that, I mean, perhaps that what I just said encompasses both the financial side and the labor side, which, Rochelle, I think it's kind of the direction you were going.
Yeah, I can even take it a little step further. I mean, I've seen companies and I've worked with companies, they have a plan, but it's, it's dusted and on a shelf. They haven't tested it. They haven't tested it. So it's like it becomes a theory. And then when things do become a chaotic, they don't even know where the heck it is. So a plan is part A. It's not even part A. You need to have the emotional, I guess, wherewithal to be ready and able to implement the plan. Like, did you test it? How much
Right.
of it did you test? Did you cross train? Did you cross train somebody from a higher position to take over something lower and vice versa? What's your cross training? So I think that's what I'm saying. A plan, I think, is a little, for me, it sounds generic. And is that plan tested? In athletics, it's always tested. But in the day-to-day world, we only do things, I think, when in crisis, and we don't prepare. There's a great expression, prepare for war in times of peace. So when it's peaceful, we don't even think of war, and the plan is dusted on a shelf. How about what's your thought on this, Freddie? What have you worked with and had
Well,
some insights?
you're both hitting some important points, but I'm going to also bring up that, I'm going to go back to a simple SOP. And here's an example of where it's important, because when I was managing, before I took over, I should rephrase that, before I took over running a particular company, there was no plans in place. And when somebody was sick or didn't show up for work or whatever the case was, and we were dealing with people coming in periodically for documents, to pick up documents or to drop off documents. And there was no way of what are you supposed to do. That one person had it all in their head, and they were not there that day. And so here comes an unexpected, because we would have walk-ins come in, and then they come in and nobody knew how to deal with the person. So to your point, yeah, there was no cross training. But the other point was there was no playbook that says, okay, somebody comes in, you need to get this information from them, you need to get that information, you need to get a payment, you need to get them a receipt, and get them a delivery date and all that stuff. And that wasn't written down. So we ended up putting that, when I took over the company, we ended up laying that out so that anybody in the company could grab the playbook, as I'm calling it. And this is what you do when a walk-in comes in to get some documents done.
I think this is going to apply, go along with, Rochelle's background too, but this is one of those scenarios where you need training, right? And with that, you need to, whatever it is that's being trained, it has to become habit. And granted, that takes a little bit of time, but Rochelle, this is probably right up your alley with the type of work that you do.
100%. The other thing, the biggest problem with training that I come across with every imaginable business owner that I've dealt with, and I know I'm guilty of it, and I'm going to assume that so are you, both of you, people don't have patience for it. we want somebody to be able to download what I know and then be able to implement it. I don't know, maybe within 5 to 10 minutes at the most. And to
Right.
actually train overtime, it takes, oh my God, the biggest response I get all the time is, it's faster if I do it myself. It might be faster if you do it yourself, but you'll never get it out of the way. It will always be on your to-do list and never on somebody else's. So as a business owner, one of the things that I lack and is patience. I want, because when this is taking place, it's always taking place when you're under stress, you have a deadline, there's something going on. It's never when I'm sitting here relaxed and thinking, you know what, I think I'm going to play backgammon because I'm so bored. It's never under that. It's always when I'm up to my eyeballs and like, oh my gosh. And at that time, who the heck can train? Like, who wants to train? But the point is, training is it's just so important. Patience is so important. And if I can have patience with myself as well as with the other person, the chances of it going through is much more in both our favors.
Sure,
Yeah, I think,
absolutely
yeah.
correct. And
Go ahead, go ahead.
one way to address that people overlook is you can do, especially if using technology. So you can actually, do screen recording of what it is that you're doing, and there's your training material for somebody else. So you can really leverage
Absolutely.
technology to do that. And most businesses don't think about that it's really that simple. Is if you're using some kind of a system, whatever it is that you're doing, record the process, and there's your training. And then now you got somebody on board. And then what's really cool about video, as we all know, is you can back up and go, what was that they said? And you can really, and now you do it once and it's used many times.
Yeah, now you're touching on Industry 4.0, which is, you guys know, I'm in the Detroit metro area. And so manufacturing and industry is kind of like, front and center for everybody. But Industry 4.0, one of the elements of it, not the element, well, one of the elements in Industry 4.0 is to have knowledge capture and knowledge management. And the, a lot of companies are taking that as, oh, I need training material. And that's not what that means, actually. And don't get me wrong, yes, of course they need training material, but they should have that already with or without Industry 4.0's requirements. But in Industry 4.0, the knowledge capture and management is about your operations. It's about the knowledge that the employees are gaining as they're doing their work, as they are solving problems, as they are collaborating with each other and building concepts of whatever it is that they're doing. The idea is, how do you turn that into a video? How do you have images, documents, PDFs, what PowerPoints, whatever it is, but take the video, attach all this to the video and have it uploaded into a system within the company so that it's not only searchable, but as an employee leaves, as an employee runs into these issues that we're talking about, all of a sudden, boom, something blows up. Well, how do you solve it, right? So I think what Industry 4.0 is requiring would be great for manufacturers to be able to get on board with. But I can tell you, in Michigan, it's the one thing that nobody wants wants to touch. It's
Unfortunately, you're
crazy.
correct.
Which goes
Auto-
back to what Rochelle said. Nobody wants to do training.
But you're
You
you're
know what? I've
absolutely
been
you're absolutely right
amazed.
with the point, because then someone can go in and research how do you handle this thing, how do you do, and you get a whole database that you pull up in real time, and there
Yep.
it is. There's how to do it. I mean, it's the same thing with, I see some very successful software apps that have implemented that stuff. So you're trying to figure out what to do. You go in and poof, it gives you, here's the example. Here's a little video that shows
Yeah,
you how to do
Scribe is
it.
doing that right now. It's great. AI is brilliant with that. It's
Yep.
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. But here's the other thing. I remember like many years ago, IBM had the most successful sales training course. They were the most successful. If anybody wanted to get into sales, they got a job with IBM because they knew that they would get they were known for it, they're branded for it, they would train for it, and then they can use that training elsewhere. And not only did IBM train well, because of that, they had an unlimited supply of salespeople because they wanted to come in and work for them because they knew their idea was, who do I become because I have this training? So they had unlimited people. They didn't have a problem getting staff because there was always people waiting to come in to be trained and move up the ladder. That can happen to any company. What is your IP? How do you train it so that somebody that's newer in the industry can be brought in? You can train them on your style, your system, your philosophy, your vision. And then you could have an unlimited amount of people coming into your organization so that later on you don't have an HR problem. And today it's much easier because we do have technology that can take the training and break it up, and then we're ready to rock.
Sure. Absolutely correct. 100%.
And I
Sort
think
of
it's
training
technology
with the
that people
branding
need to
advice. I'm
use.
sorry.
No,
What did
this
you say,
is
Melih?
technology. This is technology that businesses, individuals need to use. I mean, here we are, whatever, 2.5 years after ChatGPT came to market, and I will tell you that I can't go without it now.
Yeah. Same
Honestly,
here.
the
Same
amount
here.
of work that I can get done in a day is mind-boggling. I can hit my LinkedIn, I can write my articles, I can manage analyses of many data points, and doing it so much faster. I can run my own technical support
Sure.
with ChatGPT.
And research. You can do all the market research and
I know.
what's the competitors doing, what's the positioning, what's the
Yeah.
price points, all that stuff. And it's, you can get carried away too in there too, you know.
I agree.
Awesome. But again, it's what's the systems that you have in place. What you were saying, Freddie, the SOPs, and it also creates value for your company. So at a later point, if you are thinking to sell, if you're dealing with an evaluator, that adds a lot of money into the value of your company because you are not the business. The business can run on its own based on these systems, and you're no longer the bottleneck. So when it comes to change, and let's just, we can really get clear on this. When it comes to change, the more systems we have in place, the more training that we're committed to, the more patience that we take on board can make the biggest difference in how to navigate all of this.
Now let's take a look at the resources we talked about so far, right? So we talked about AI just right now, using that in times of need, or for that matter, throughout your day. We talked about virtual assistants. We talked about freelancers. How do you yeah, and that's another thing. What are your resources for your specific situation? How do you tap into those resources to augment you, to support you in time of need? And again, this goes back to being prepared, right? What are you doing to be prepared? Do you have something in mind? And I don't know, being prepared could be, hey, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and say, here's my problem, fix it.
You know what? It's great that we have that option today.
No, no,
No,
it's very
absolutely
true.
correct. Yes, absolutely correct. And, you know, the other thing is empowering people. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we don't do a good enough job, leaders, I'm speaking of empowering people and actually getting out of the way and letting them run with the ball, because a lot of times they're going to come up with a better play than you did. And because they're in the game, going back to a sports thing, but they're going to pivot, they're going to run, they're going to do whatever because they're there right then and there in the now. And I think that the businesses that really scale quickly, and just to, like Rochelle mentioned, where the value of the company goes up is when you empower people, you can step away and the business still runs. And if something,
Yeah.
even if there's a hiccup, the team collectively will work together to keep it moving forward because they're into it.
Absolutely. And there was something, Rochelle, you said earlier, and it struck a chord with me because this happened, I can't remember when it was, 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever. Um, we had a situation, and somebody's been working with me for now the last 14 years, right? We had a situation, and I said, hey, why don't you train this? I don't want to call it an admin person per se, but purposes of this conversation, let's say it's an admin person. Why don't you train? I had talked to this individual. I said, why don't you train this admin, and at least they'll learn about it and they can help out in the future. And the response was just like you said, Rochelle. The response was, I don't have time to train. I'll just get it done myself.
It does not add value to the company. It's a
No, not at all. And it
Right.
was like I
It
got to
does not
work
add
through
value.
that
People don't like
process.
training. It does not
It's
add
like
value.
and Rochelle, the other thing you mentioned earlier in the show was patience, right? So I think patience is interesting. And so if I go back to in our firm, our biggest nightmare in 2009 was a financial crisis. That's when all of Detroit with the big three basically filed for bankruptcy. Okay. We didn't but my point is everybody really had a problem. And so we had to let a good portion of our team go. But by the time our clients came back to the marketplace towards the end of 2010, my previous team was already employed elsewhere. I mean, I don't blame them. They needed to earn money from whatever direction they could, especially during that crisis. So starting in 2011, when I think about patience, and I had to, even though we never went to zero, even though we had a few people still on our team, at the end of the day, in order to take on the types of companies that we work with and build out the team to the 25 people I have today, we have to look at this from the standpoint that it required training and it required patience on my part. So it wasn't just patience
Training's
for
forever.
three
It's not just
months.
then. Training's now. We need to train people now, and I need to be trained. When people think that training is a finite amount of time, no, it's forever.
Yeah,
Forever.
there's no
Always
end
be
point. I
learning.
agree.
Always be
Yeah, you're
learning.
always learning. I agree.
Always
Yep.
be learning. It's
But
like always
but
be selling
that
and always be learning.
but that patience period is what I wanted to touch on, which is it didn't just take 6 months to train this new team. It took a few years in order to get the processes in place, in order to get the teams to work together, in order to hire people along the way and to build this out. That's that when I think of patience, that's what my patience was.
Yeah, but what you did is you made sure that all the pieces got put into place, complemented the existing pieces in place. So I think
Very
that
true.
that's where the trick is, or the magic is really, it's probably the better word, magic, is really identifying the right team member that complements the team and everybody starts elevating.
No question. I mean, that's exactly what happened in my case. And, eventually here we have this nice, beautiful team that's been running, I don't want to say on its own, but certainly less of my time per se, in I would say the last, whatever, 10 years or so, roughly speaking. But it took a lot of time. And when when I came across this scenario where this person said, I don't have time to train, I'm like, yeah, you do. You need to make the time, what do
Exactly.
you
I was going to say, you got to find the time, buddy boy,
exactly. No
because
other way
yeah,
around it.
no way around it.
But yeah. So let's do this, guys. Let's slowly close out today's show as we start hitting our 45-minute mark. And I'm going to close out with the way that Sean used to close us out with give everybody your one little point from today that you can walk away with. I'll start from my standpoint. I'm going to say be prepared. I felt that was right on target for today. Rochelle, what's your thought?
Change needs patience.
Very good one. Freddy,
Put an SOP, put a playbook in play.
very cool. All right. With that in mind, guys, we'll be back for our next show next week, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we look forward to having everybody join us again.
Take care.
Thank you.